No, because again, there are opinions that without changing the constitution, things will not work. I'll tell you how I feel. People are fed up with strategies, constitutional changes, papers, documents. Yes? They want action. Can you provide action? Can the prosecutors and judges provide some action? I'm sure that corruption is in the criminal code. I'm sure that money laundering is in the criminal code. They have just to start doing it. Then you can change. You know, when you talk about the reform of the judicial system, it's not, initially you think that you have to make a whole, change in the system. You have to. But you have to start by this action, yes, by working. Which means the duty of a prosecutor and the duty of a judge is to work in cases, yes, to investigate up to the end, and then to judge, to try, to convict or to acquit. So they have to do their job. They don't have to wait for any change in the law or in the constitution. About the corruption in the administration. If I think that the administration can fight corruption, there could be whistleblowers, some of them. And I work with some of them like this. First of all, you have to know that the civil servants are assumed to be corrupt if they have in reality more money, more assets than the income. And in the UN Convention Against Corruption, it's recommended that illicit enrichment be a crime in itself for civil servants, which means if I'm a civil servant and I have more, houses, cars, money than my legal income and my family income, then this is a crime in itself because it's an assumption that because I'm a civil servant, I made it through corruption. Yes? And I said it's a crime in itself. And it's in France as well, for instance. And of course it's confiscated. Confiscation is very important. We didn't talk about this. I was a rapporteur and I wrote and I negotiated the directive, European directive on EU on extended confiscation, which means you can confiscate more than the object which is proven in a criminal trial. And also you can confiscate from third parties because people divorce, people put houses, lands on other people's name, family or others. So if you prove that it's under your control, even if it's on another name, then you can confiscate. That's in the directive. Now on the CVM, I have to tell you, if you didn't know, that you have CVM because of me. And Romania has CVM because of me. In 2006, I realized that the political will was going down. I mean, there was no political will to continue anti-corruption. Everyone was sure that we joined at 1st of January 2007. And therefore, everyone was telling just, stop any anti-corruption initiative. So everything was much more difficult. So I realized that after 1st of January 2007, things will be reversed. So I took a decision by myself, and I went to the Commission and I said, let's imagine a mechanism by which you could still have a leg in my country. I was interested in Romania, but as you know, we are a package. So Romania, if we had CVM, we had to have CVM as well. And it was good for both countries. You had an organized crime and judiciary, you had no corruption in judiciary. That's because, and that's connected to another question, the role of pre-accession. In the pre-accession period, it's a time when you can do things, because there is no politician who can go out in front of the public and say, we will not join the EU because I don't want to adopt this law or to do this anti-corruption measure. They cannot do it, but they can do it afterwards. So that, yes, the pre-accession period has been very helpful. And I had commissioners who told me, if the Prime Minister of the government doesn't want to do something, which you want, then you call me. Or they don't give you enough money to do the budget for this anti-corruption prosecutor office, you call me and you call the Prime Minister. This is how things are going. So we made this CVM, which came from the Commission, and in my view, without this CVM, for instance, the Romanian this anti-corruption prosecutor office would not exist today. It would have been dismantled. It would have been eliminated by the politicians. They tried a few times. So this helps politicians who want to continue the reform of the judiciary and to fight corruption. This helps the civil society. This helps the judges and the prosecutors who want to do it. This helps the good people, yes? This CVM. They don't have politicians who don't want. But that's their problem. We don't do reforms and fight against political corruption to protect politicians. No. We do it for the people, yes? So CVM is good and should be maintained. The problem is, at least in Romania, the judiciary is doing this job. The problem in Romania is that the politicians try to stop it. For instance, they reject sometimes requests of waiving or immunity in order to be investigated or to be taken to a judge for deciding complete arrest. Or they try to change the criminal procedure code. And I make you laugh. They changed the law and they saw that they go to prison, fine. And then they thought, how do we get earlier? So they changed the law and they put in the law on execution of sentences a provision saying that if you write books in the prison, you get out earlier. Each book, I think it's 3 months, you know? So we had people who wrote this head of, former vice prime minister, and also president of a football club, who wrote 4 books. In, I don't know, 4 books in 3 months or something like this. And he did this. Now everyone is writing, all these famous people are writing books in prison. They don't write, they don't write the books, yes? They pay someone to write the books because then it was in the media that basically 2 of the 4 books were copied from a PhD thesis. So they try all these kind of things, but it's, it's late. It's late. But this is because we had the CVM. Without the CVM, these prosecutors and judges have been allowed. And also the ambassadors were very important. I think you said that we don't need foreign embassies. We need, I'm sorry to say. Our political class is not, as a whole, yes, is not willing to fight corruption. And therefore we need political support. And yes, anytime there was a wrong, we had American ambassador, we had British ambassador, Dutch ambassador that were most active in Romania, being very outspoken. And this was very helpful, even for those prosecutors, The oligarchs have the TVs. You can't imagine what they broadcast about these prosecutors and judges who have their cases. And they support all this, that's the job. But it's important that someone comes out and gives you support. And it's important for our politicians also, in the bilateral relations. They are told in bilateral meetings all these things. Because no one will tolerate corruption. You don't want to make business with a country where there is corruption. Why should I do business with you? I don't trust. There is no fair competition. Yes? There is no free market. So, let's keep this in here.
Ще отговорим на въпроса какво CVM. CVM е механизъм за сътрудничество и оценка на Европейската комисия или по-известен като Европейския мониторинг на България, Cooperation and Verification Mechanism. който и да стои в корена на това политическо решение за продължаване на мониторинга на двете страни, е свършил полезна работа за нас. Нашата позиция винаги е била, че механизма трябва да продължава, докато ние не сме готови да продължим без него. За съжаление, мисля, че доста време ще ни трябва. Така че това е за отношение на комисията. Едно нещо мога да споделя с вас. Ако прочетете последния доклад на комисията, някакси съосъщането реформа на прокуратурата едва ще ви дойде на ум. И това е пък една слабост на тези доклади. И една трудност, която през цялото време, включително в този разговор, не се опитваме да обясним. Госпожа Малкова изхожда от презумцията, че ви каза изречението, в Румъния съдебната власт се върши работата на политиците и пречат. Нашите може би са малко по-ефективни. Те не просто им се налага да пречат на свършена работа, те са създали през тези десетилетия условията, огромна част от работата просто да не се свърши по някакви изобщо. Това е съвсем различна изходна точка и ние трябва да си даваме сметка. И ролята на медиите. Знаете, ролята на медиите е така простичка. Ако нещо не е добро, няма да се случи. Ако медиите не ви разкажат с поредния скандал от изчисленца, ако не ви разкажат за какво се случи, не кой кръщава, който е около нас и каква пиротехника му е, а защо е бил зададен този въпрос, защо не е бил зададен, защо не е получил отговор и никога няма да разберете за това. Ако междувременно се занимават с пластичната операция на Хикс, бял шум. И тук не говоря дори за тези, за които всички знаят. Така че това, което няма в медиите, го няма в природата.
Благодаря, Иванов. Други въпроси изказват?
Добър ден, Георги Атанасов, Български финансов форум. Дона малко явно да бъдете справи. Първият ми въпрос е: доколко считате, че процесът в Румъния вече е дефинитивен, необратим? Аз се спомням ваше изказване между първия и втория тур на президентските избори миналата есен, когато казахте, че избора, как доста силни думи потребихте, на живот и смърт. И вторият ми въпрос е: вие сте работили в Скопие. Предполагам ви права за събитието от последния месец. Доколко считате, че проблем е в корупцията, а не система? Благодаря.
Следващ въпрос.
Разбрах, че има добри преводачи, така че на английски. Madam McAvey, the question is for you. First time I heard your name was actually in Romania during the presidential election. And I heard it since I'm active in the youth and student field in Bulgaria and European level as well. Difference between Bulgaria and Romania that I found starkly interesting is your youth and student NGOs are quite proactive. You'll find a lot of supporters there, by the way. They were the ones that told me about it. You probably know of Adam Sereg, you probably know of Cetere. I have a feeling that in Bulgaria we don't necessarily have such a strong civil society. As you can clearly see, we're really good in applauding and in agreeing, but I'm afraid that we might not be good in implementation when it comes to the reform, when it comes to the will. Your current position in the European Parliament actually allows you to be more vigilant upon those issues. Do you think that you can take the case of Bulgaria up on your initiative, even freely commenting or blogging about it? As you know, we're in an interconnected European Union. What happens in Bulgaria too affects Romania. If we lag behind, this will inevitably have an effect on all of the EU and Romania as well. So my suggestion for you is, as you promised earlier, follow up on what's happening in Bulgaria. We would need that. Our civil society needs, even if you say foreign intervention, as a good example. Earlier we had a minister of France. Your voice would be one that the Bulgarian civil society would be interested in recurringly hearing about this reform. So I would ask you to take up on that. I mean, I personally come from Dobruja. My grandmother spoke Romania. You know, other than the two bridges, there's a lot more that connects us, trust me. Последният ми въпрос ще бъде към господин Иванов. Госпожа Маковей говори много за страха и колко е важно да не се страхуваме. Страха е нещо естествено, всеки природно, всеки се страхува. От какво се страхувате вие, ми въпрос? Благодаря.
Добре. Моля да не забравяйте да се представите.
Добър ден, аз се казвам Снежина Ставрева и работя като вътрешен аудитор на частна практика. Въпросите са ми към госпожа Маковей. Първия, какъв е прага на конфискация в Румъния за имущество, което е придобито в резултат на корупция, злоупотреби и така нататък? Има ли давност за корупция в Румъния? И работят ли по анонимни сигнали тези колеги в тази структура, която е призвана да се бори срещу корупцията? Благодаря ви.
Добър ден. Моят въпрос е към госпожа Маковей. Работейки върху този документ, който господин Величков изнесе малко по-рано, Петромир Кънчев се казвам, адвокат съм, част от инициатива Правосъдие за всеки. Мислихме ролята за този независим прокурор, който вие имате. И в тази връзка възникна въпроса: прокуратурата в Румъния част ли от съдебната или от изпълнителната власт? Защото това е нещо, което ще отговори на въпроса колко у нас е възможно да има ролята на такъв прокурор, който е изцяло независим от общата прокуратура и от главния прокурор. И как би могъл да се създаде един такъв орган у нас, който да е равно отдалечен от всички власти, така че да не се страхува от влияние на всички онези, които той разследва. Благодаря.
Този въпрос, между другото, може би да се отнесе и към министър Христо Иванов, каква е разлика между българския и румънския модел. Следен въпрос.
Здравейте, Димитър Инвичев, група за обществен натиск. Госпожа Маковей, първият въпрос е към вас. Общества, които остро се нуждаят от реформиране, вземат нестандартни решения. Украинското правителство, например, назначи заместник министър, бившия грузински министър на вътрешните работи, за да се пребори с корупцията. Лично аз много бих се радвал вие да бъдете министър на правосъдието на България. Но въпросът ми е следния. Ако вие кажете, че премиера на България е мутра, бандит и е част от мафията и той после ви покани да станете министър на правосъдието, ще приемете ли? И вторият ми въпрос е към министъра на правосъдието. Господин министър, на всички ми е ясно, че 25 годишният път е сбъркан и съдебната реформа спешно се нуждае от започване. Пътят ще бъде дълъг. Нямате ли усещането, че сте се загубили още в началото на пътя? Благодаря.
Благодаря. Понеже остава точно 10 минути, докато приключи дискусията, приключваме да съждение с въпросите и даваме думата на госпожа Маковей и министър Иванов за отговорите.
Okay, if what the prosecutors and judges do in these anti-corruption cases is irreversible, as I said in the campaign, that's a matter of death and life. At the level of these prosecutors and these judges, they will not change. Nothing will change them. However, as I said, and I will repeat, the heads are important. For instance, the current general prosecutor was appointed by the Prime Minister from the Socialist Party, but a party which never fought against corruption. And actually one of the ministers in his campaign was convicted a few days ago for fraud, electoral fraud. And the person he appointed he negotiated with the previous president, is a person who did nothing in his career, is a friend of the Prime Minister, and therefore the General Prosecutor Office is doing no cases. The difference is that the other office, the Anti-Corruption Office, which is independent, including financially, is doing all these cases. So that's what I'm saying. It could be reversible if they succeed to change all these people and to bring their friends. Yes. I hope this will not happen. But yes, it's possible.
The presidential election was the crucial point.
Okay, but still I want to see, for instance, next year, the mandate of the current chair of the Chief Prosecutor of the Anti-Corruption Prosecutor Office expires. This is Kövesi, Boruca Kövesi. It's very important who will be the...
We're supposed to appoint the next one.
The proposal will be made, as I told you before, by the Minister of Justice. An interview with the Supreme Council of Magistracy, an opinion, and then the President. And let's see the President what will do. Last week, he appointed a person as the head of the Organized Crime Department. It was not really coming from Iași, if you know about the city. The city is full of crime. So if you know, that's another way to measure the quality of the work of prosecutors. You have criminal gangs and activities. Why? And then you pretend that you do your job. No, you don't. You didn't. Because they wouldn't have been created and they wouldn't act if you would have done your job. How many cases you did, how many people you sent to trial, how many investigations you did, how successful they were, everything can be measured in figures. So yes, it's in this way reversible if they change the heads, and not only the heads, and the heads start to change the prosecutors working. About to take up on the reform of the judicial system in Bulgaria and the European Parliament, fine, I'm happy to do this. And I'm actually working on writing on the judicial reform around the countries in the Balkans. It was a question on the threshold of illicit enrichment in Romania. In Romania, I could not enforce this illicit enrichment. I told you it's a recommendation in the UN Convention Against Corruption. By contrary, I could do it in Macedonia. So after I had to leave the government after the accession, I was hired by the Foreign Office of the British government to work as an advisor and anti-corruption advisor to the Prime Minister of Macedonia. And there I changed the criminal code and I put as a crime illicit enrichment in Macedonia. But I have to tell you that Macedonia, for instance, it had before I was there in 2007. You can solve this through the taxes. For people who do not declare their taxes, their income, and they don't pay taxes on all their assets, the tax, if they catch you, is 70% of the value of the good. Otherwise, it's 10%.
Well, how about the system problem in Macedonia? How about the system problem in Macedonia later, last month?
I'm not commenting on
We don't have to
Macedonia. And also I know that it's a dispute between Bulgaria and Macedonia, so I don't want to go into this. Anonymous signals, sure. We use them, I use them. And I can tell you a nice story, I use them in the European Parliament as well. I had a whistleblower, with people working in the European institutions who want to keep their jobs because they are European civil servants with good salaries for life, and it's logical they want to keep their job. On the other hand, if they see illegalities in their institutions, they want to tell. If they tell publicly, they risk that they lose their jobs. You know, they make your life miserable, they move you to another place, and so on and so forth. So I was in the situation when I received emails on my official email from, anonymous email, asking for my personal telephone or email address. I gave, I didn't know who they were, and they tested me. I had 3 cases. Each asked me to have a different telephone for each of them, and they tested me for some months. And I will just give you one example. At some point, they give me good hints to go. At some point, I said, okay, we need to meet because you tell me about these subcontracts, and I don't have them, and I can't find them. There are subcontracts proving that basically the contract, the money went to the director of that institution. So we need to meet. And they said, okay, we'll let you know how we meet. So one day I received an SMS saying that on Thursday, it was Tuesday, on Thursday, I have to be, to go to this country, I will not say the country, by plane, then to rent a car, then to go to this lake, then to park the car in this parking, then to go to the lake through the alley, which is called this way, through the forest. Then I arrived at the lake. There is an electricity
Fence.
not stick, yeah. Then you count 3 benches to the left and you sit on the 3rd bench.
Wow.
At 9 o'clock in the evening alone.
Oh, like in a movie.
Like in a movie. I believe me, like in a movie. Because they followed me all this time, they wanted to make sure that I'm not followed. And they are head of offices in their institutions. Okay, the person came with his or wife, husband. They took me to their home. I slept there, they gave me all the documents, and the director is not the director any longer. Yes, this is like in a movie. I said I had 3 situations, I'm just giving one. You have other colleagues do this, not all of them in the European Parliament, but we know, and we know that we work like this, and people don't ask, where you get this. I have a source, that's it. They're not allowed to ask me, or if they ask me, I don't say it. They're very afraid that I'm going to tell their names. No, I will never tell their names. But that's also part of life, you take risk, as I said. Prosecutor is part of the executive or part of the judiciary. It's part of the judiciary. In 91, when we did the new constitution, they're part of the judiciary, but they are both called magistrates. Now, to tell you how I feel, I think the good system and the real system in a democracy is that the prosecutors are representative of the state. They are subordinated, like in Germany, like in US, to the general prosecutor, but they have independence on the case. And they represent the interest of the state, the same as the private lawyers, defending lawyers represent the interest of the client. Now, in our countries, after the communism, this system would not have worked. Would not have worked because we wanted to take them out, to take them from the power of the executive, which was for 50 years, for the prosecutors and judges. So this is why you made them independent. Basically, the same way as judges. So that's a solution for the time being in our countries. I don't know if you realize, but we show in the history. We try to do reforms in all areas: democracy, market economy, judiciary, health, whatever, financially first. In 20 years, or 25 years, or 15 years, reforms which other countries did in hundreds of years. Accession to NATO and accession to EU, to-do list. You want to join NATO, you have a to-do list. Very good. To-do list, move tasks forward. Want to join the EU, here is the to-do list. Now this shortened the history for us. It was a political decision for the two countries to be taken into the EU. You knew that we didn't fulfill all the criteria, but you expected us to continue to the reforms. And that was the tragedy, that we didn't. The politicians didn't continue the reforms. That's why I said, fortunately, the CPM. Now, about independence, again, it can be written in the Constitution, it can be written in the law. This doesn't mean that in reality, because it's written in the law or in the Constitution, prosecutors and judges automatically, all of them will behave independently. Even if they have all the guarantees, they are appointed for life, for instance, in Romania. For life, yes, no one can do anything against them. And still they don't behave like angels on the earth, delivering justice. Not all of them. Young prosecutors or young judges, they are not corrupted. You see, the amounts are growing up as they are younger. It's incredible. We felt that, okay, young journalists, it's not enough to be young, no. So, what I want to speak is about personal independence. If it's in the law, it will not help. If a person is corrupt, will be corrupt. Even if it's in the law that it's independent, it's appointed for life and so on. It's personal independence. This is why I say not anyone can be judge and prosecutor. There are a lot of tests to testing, a lot of systems to test this. It's not so complicated. So it's about personal independence, and this is why I insist it can be done. Just have a prosecutor or two prosecutors to start investigations. Did I answer the question? Oh, about the Prime Minister. I didn't use those words about the Prime Minister. I said, I don't think there is, as it won't be the case in Romania as well. It will be the case in Romania as well. That I will not be the Minister of Justice in Bulgaria, as I will not be in Romania, because the political class don't want to be investigated. You know? He didn't know at the beginning who I was and what I was going to do. Now, the second time it won't work like this with me. Maybe someone else. So that's why I said that. You know, I can work with anyone, and I work with people who, who shouted at me and threatened me. I don't care if I have an objective, and I don't have any fear. So yes, if it's real, if it's for real, then yes, I come. But they will not ask, that's my point. They will not ask me in Romania. They don't want it once again. That's my point.